Oh boy. I'll handle this, Phantom. You just get to safety.
The boys are back in town, baby. The bros for life, Ratchet and Clank, are at it again, sticking their wrench to Dr. Nefarious once more. And this time, instead of time traveling, they are rupturing dimensions and discovering their interdimensional counterparts, who just happen to be them, but they're chicks.
Just me.
Alright. Whoever wrote this story obviously just copied and pasted their fanfic from their composite notebook from middle school. But then again, the internet probably ate this up, so maybe this was a foolproof plan. This is Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart, developed by Insomniac Games, being played here on my PlayStation 5 Pro. This game was a launch title for the system and was one of the first games to showcase what the expensive Pro system could do. And while this is the first time I played this game, or a PS5 for an extended period of time, believe me when I say this game looks really good. In fact, I would go as far as saying this game is the best looking game on the system. Anyways, we once again go through the Ratchet & Clank world, killing enemies and bosses with a variety of weapons we unlock, upgrade them, and go from area to save the world, or in this case, the dimension once again. If you played any of the other Ratchet & Clank games since really up your arsenal on the PS2, then you should know what to expect, as the formula has remained the same. While it plays like others in the franchise, I can certainly say it plays a lot smoother than the last mainline entry into the series, which before this was Into the Nexus on PS3 back in 2013. Rift Apart, on the Pro at least, holds a steady 60 FPS. So combine that with the dash ability and the smooth animation these games are known for, and the gameplay just feels snappy. Like if you get hit or die, that was 100% your fault, not the game's. I know it is a strange and somewhat sad to state that it's a good thing when a game plays well, as all games should work at the end of the day. But if you've played games long enough, you know how much it sucks when a game plays or runs like ass. Which Rift Apart does not run or play like ass, so kudos to Insomniac Games for that one. The movement when in combat has been touched up a bit, mainly with the aforementioned ability to dash out of harm's way in an instant, which this game would have been 10 times harder without it, especially when there is a crap load of enemies on screen. It also has the all-important on-rail segments that has been in the series, I think since the games on the PS2. Always love to see that.
You must accept your brokenness.
Is he talking about me?
The guns on offer are a combination of your standard and strange weapon types that the Ratchet & Clank series is known for. You got your always ready blaster all the way up to the lawn sprinkler you can set on the ground that freezes and turns enemies into a giant bush, which was really useful during boss fights. But no Groovatron whatsoever. What the f***? The Groovatron was probably the best weapon in the PS3 Ratchet & Clank game, so I could see why they took it out, but whatever. About midway through playing, when each fight started, I would throw out all the friendlies I could, like the pack of dogs and fungus dudes, which if you paired all these together, they just tore up any enemy or boss that came their way. Just borderline overpowered. As you would expect, you upgrade all your weapons by collecting these crystals scattered on each map, which you'll want to do as some of these upgrades just outright double your damage. These games throw tougher and tougher enemies at you constantly, but they never stop the player from becoming a one-man death machine. which you get all your upgrades from Mrs. Zircon, which, if you've played these games long enough, that name may ring a bell. Mr. Zircon now owns a bar that you'll be visiting periodically throughout the story, which is also where you go for the game's ever-important arena. The arena is hosted by Zircon Jr., so it's good to know the Zircon family is alive and well no matter what dimension they're in. And if you're like me and collect every bolt you can find, don't worry about missing anything later on, because you can find a pirate map that shows every crystal and all the other collectibles on each world. In other words, upgrades galore. Speaking of pirates, I was really happy to see a pirate world as Ratchet & Clank Quest for Booty on the PS3 is possibly my favorite game in the series, simply because that was a DLC that was short yet sweet. You know, as a DLC should be. But Rift Apart may now be my favorite Ratchet & Clank game. This franchise has always been known for their humor. Luckily, Rift Apart is no different with its writing. The characters, even the new ones, are all well written, and it is nice to see characters represented in the other dimensions you travel to.
Wait, this dimension has a quark?
Quark? It's Quantum! Captain Quantum.
There's even a serious tone in the later parts of the story. Won't spoil that, because a serious tone is something we don't often see in these games. It did end off on a cliffhanger, so hopefully that means a new game is in the works. Just, please don't take like 20 years again. Hopefully the next Ratchet & Clank game doesn't come out when we're all in the elderly home. But, I guess we'll see. As I leaned into before, the game looks just fantastic. The amount of particles on screen are just dazzling, although sometimes, I'll be honest, I could use it with a little bit less, but whatever. All the characters are all finely detailed. The texture work throughout the game is just jaw-dropping. I can certainly see how this game shows off the power of the PS5 and even the Pro model. The NVMe SSD that the PS5 has is shown in full force here, as I did not notice any loading screens throughout my playthrough. When loading missions, it all seemed to work without a hitch.
Build a dimensionator. Where would I be?
Not to mention the impressive use of the adaptive triggers on the PS5 controller. A lot of the weapons have two modes of firing depending on how far you pull the trigger. Only want to use one barrel on your shotgun? Only pull halfway. Want to only fire slowly with the minigun? Pull halfway and then pull all the way to fire rapidly. Some of the stuff may seem trivial, but the way it's been implemented here is all very well done. As a long-time Ratchet & Clank fan, it was nice to finally play through the title that has long been out of my reach. Even though this is available on the PC, I felt that to get the full experience of Rift Apart, it had to be played on a PS5, in which I was right. The full use of the PlayStation 5 hardware down to its controller deserves a round of applause for the folks over at Insomniac Games, as this title shows that the studio is still capable of bringing back the Ratchet & Clank franchise even after all these years later. I just hope they make another Resistance someday. If you have not played Rift Apart and are looking for a somewhat cheap addition to your PS5 collection, then look no further. If you're thinking of picking up for your PC, then I would suggest you get a PS5 controller to go with it, as according to my online sources, this is one of the few Steam games to fully support the DualSense controller. In any case, whether you are an old fan of the series or someone that is curious to see what all the hype is about with this franchise, you will most definitely have a fantastic time with Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart. And Insomniac Games, if you're watching, please for the love of God make another Resistance game. Thank you.
A fine addition to our collection.